listener production.
Welcome to the Motorsport Brief. It is Friday, the 31st of May, 2024. The season-ending Adelaide 500 launch was held in the past 48 hours, and in keeping with the history of cool off-track acts, this year we're going to be treated to a symphony of sprint cars. G'day everybody, Rusty here. Welcome to another ep of the Garage Shortcast. Standing by is Craig Lowndes, who was at Wednesday's event launch, and Toby Bellbowen from Sprintcar Hub, that has fast become a go-to platform, or platforms really, for the latest Speedway news in Australia. Quick plug, our newest feature episode dropped yesterday with two-time Australian rally champion Rob Herridge. From thinking he was world champion material, the way that he attacked his first ever transport stage, to the ties with Subaru that stand to this day, through the family business, Maximum Motorsport. From a brutal lesson his uncle taught him around the psychology of winning, to becoming a pretengineer. Working as a young bloke on the family farm taught him resourceful engineering skills, and while he doesn't have a formal ticket, the craftsmanship and precision is something to really admire. Plus, his second Australian title before he even received the first. That'll make sense when you listen to the pod. Keep an eye out, an ear out for notifications on that one. One of the best events on the Supercars calendar clicked up a gear on Wednesday with news that the Vailo Adelaide 500 would feature sprint cars among an awesome array of support acts, all right there, trackside this November. They have always had a reputation for quality entertainment to complement the main act. The final round of Supercars to joining us to talk about it, I should say, is none other than Craig Lowndes. Hello, mate. Welcome back to the pod.
Hi, Rusty. It's great to be back. It's good to see you again.
Hey, 25 years you and I are showing our grey hairs. I can remember the first one. You can too, can't you?
Yes. And it was actually interesting. When we did the launch, Jess Yates did the emceeing, and she was very graceful and called me very young, Craig Lowndes. So I was very thankful for that.
This has a bit of a triple challenge feel, like we used to see at Sydney Motorsport Park. There is Australian Supercross and sprint cars. How good. They're going to create a temporary venue to have sprint car racing there within the track precinct too.
It's amazing, like to actually hear what they're attempting to do. They've got to bring in so much soil for both elements, and that's where it's going to be crazy. Like, we think that it's obviously getting our transporters into place and lining them up and everything else is so important. But to actually create these two stadiums is really going to be very interesting. And I spoke to a couple of the motocross guys in the launch, or at the launch, and they were saying that the area they've got actually was bigger than they thought they'd have. So they're going to have a full-length stadium motocross track. And they've said it's blown them away.
Awesome. I can't remember. My memory doesn't serve me well enough here. Have you driven a sprint car, and will you, if called upon for promotional purposes?
I've driven one around Archerfield when it was operating, I almost have to say 25 years ago. But it's an interesting thing, because it somewhat frightened me some way, because you're sitting on the diff. It's like a bus wheel. It's just flat. You've got about 780 horsepower, and the thing only weighs about 400 kilos. So it's an art form in itself. To get it sideways, to get the rear wing to move and slide it back and forth to get to obviously the balance you want. So for me, it's like a whole new world, like anything else. But if they asked me to go up and have a display of something, I could probably do that. It's a race one. I've spoken to Cam Waters. He loves it. Like, he loves getting involved in all that down at Warrnambool and everywhere else. He was just, he talks so highly of the sprint cars. Another one that loves it too is the reigning Supercars champion in Brodie Kostecki. I would imagine, Craig, and this is probably to be decided in the months ahead, but we'll, I hope, get some sort of crossover here, won't we? Oh, absolutely. And I think that's one of the questions that got asked me, would Cam actually race one over one of the nights? And I said, my response was, depending on how he's going in the championship, he might just ditch the championship and go sprint car racing. But in all seriousness, I think it's great when you get drivers that are so diverse, and you go from bitumen to dirt to go to a circuit race to an oval race. So for me, it's just embraces all your sort of experiences and your learnings. And for Cam and Brodie, they definitely do that. We're talking about the off-track stuff at the moment. I mean, the on-track will be enormous too, from the, what's typically been the title decider for Supercars, an unbelievable array of other
on-track acts, if you will, and that also now includes the return of stadium super trucks.
Yeah, absolutely. They're one of the crowd favourites. When you think about jumping a truck probably almost a story and a half high, and they go about 40 metres in length because they're hitting the ramps in third gear quite quickly. It's really exciting. Like we used to all go out of the garage or come out of the garages and go to the pit wall like everyone else did to watch these trucks jump. And again, it's crazy. Like it's really, I think what the Vailo Adelaide 500 has been able to do is capture something very different again. And we've missed the jump trucks. The stadium trucks are definitely going to bring another element to it. Plus, sprint cars, and you got motocross. You've got everything going on, and with all that, and as you mentioned, Rusty, like even on track for us in supercar world, at the moment, the championships, it really had a bit of a turn because Red Bull were sort of dominating the first half of the season. Now Ford are creeping back, which is fantastic to see. So I think it's only going to spice it up.
Don't worry about calling them the jump trucks either, because lots of the kids do that, mate. They get spellbound by them, I know. On the music front, they've always had great music over the years. Are you Crowded House or Cold Chisel? Come on, what's Craig Lowndes?
Well, I'm probably more Cold Chisel, but I do listen to both of them. So I might even end up going to both of them over the weekend.
I reckon it won't take much arm twisting. Let's talk test day for 888 and the wildcard. You're really enthused by that. That was earlier in the week as well. How'd that go?
Yeah, really good. I think it was the first time that I've actually had chance to really listen to Cooper Murray's feedback and how he really thinks about the car and what he wants from the car. So really, it was a great day. I probably, to be honest, only got about probably 12, 15 laps. The whole focus was to get Cooper up to speed for Darwin, in which it was that was the whole focus. The same as what we did last year with Zane, and for Cooper to work with to Wes McDougall, the new engineer, to do actually pit stop practice. So in Super 2, they don't do it in racing, but for Darwin, he's going to have to learn how to get in the approach, attack pit lane, stop on the marks, wait for it when the car drops to accelerate away. Did a couple of starts over the course of the day. So just it was a lot for him to take in and absorb. But he really did a great job, and I was really impressed with him. He was very methodical about the way he talks about the car. He starts with obviously the braking and the stability and the entry. He really breaks the corners up really nicely, and it's really easy to understand what he's wanting or trying to achieve from the car. And so for Wes, it was really good also because he really just changed a number of things in the car, not to chase what the balance was needing, but just to give Cooper a feel of what things were doing to the car. So at the end of the day, they sort of collectively put a qualifying setup in the car. And again, he was, I think, the fastest time. Again, it wasn't confirmed, but it was like an 8.8 around Queensland Raceway. And I think that was done by Will Davison. But Cooper did a 9.1, so he wasn't far away already from what the main guys and the guys that sit in these cars every day.
Is it a little bit of being eyes forward here too? I mean, obviously there was that high-profile incident between Cooper and Cameron McLeod at Wanneroo. That's been through the appeal process with Motorsport Australia. We know the outcome and the findings of that. Was from Cooper's perspective, was it important to try and move forward from that?
Oh, absolutely. I sent him a message after that night when we were over in WA and I said, look, you got to sort of shake it off. At that point, we didn't know what the outcome was going to be. We do now know, but he had great speed over the course of the weekend. He didn't get the result that he wanted. And both Cam McLeod was actually at the Queensland Raceway test, and they're both talking. There's no malice or any problems between the two of them now. They just want to get on with racing. But yeah, look, it's one of those things for Cooper is now eyes forward. He's really focused on Darwin. He wants to do a really good job. He knows the emphasis on understanding the tyre life because Super 2, again, you've still got the anti-roll bar adjustments in the car, but the Gen 3 cars you don't. And we've been talking to him a lot about that. And again, Wes McDougall will sort of coach him through all that side of it. The virtual safety car, again, is something new for him to get his head around. So, again, there's a lot of different things that Cooper's really going to blow his mind in some regards, but it'll be really good once we get to Sandown and Bathurst to have the Darwin experience under his belt. Quickly, how'd Jamie Whincup go? He won't be listening to us, mate. How's he going in that role there with that team? No, Jamie was actually really good. He's really embraced obviously the wildcard side of it, but to run the team and everything else, it's credit to him. He's come out of a race seat into a business seat, and it's sometimes hard to do and to cross over that side of it. And I think that it'll be interesting actually this year when he gets out of the captain's chair and he actually gets back into a race chair again when he's got to do Sandown and Bathurst. I think it's going to be interesting because he's know that what he's racing, he's owning and he has to pay for.
Yeah, I'd expect nothing less that he's attacking it, in the same way that he goes about his racing, very professionally. Hey, you're going to do Finke in a few weeks' time. Tell us about this program, how excited you are. Just before we hit record today, I think you're even talking about your navigator or your co-driver as well there too. Give us the backstory on this one.
Well, it's been a project in the planning for the last couple of years, and it's been a staff engagement within GMSV in Melbourne. And it actually popped up on the radar last year when they actually started showcasing the truck. And it was one of those things that's like, ooh, this is a bit interesting. And started talking to them and everything else and what their program was, what their plans were. They wanted to run the Finke last year, but the truck wasn't ready and there hadn't been any testing done. So we put it on ice for 12 months. We got involved in the program, and through GMSV, the engineers and the staff within Melbourne, as well as Mike Henry at Rampex, who looks after the Bob Jane Porsche Carrera Cup team, Mike's got involved, and through basically the three groups, we've had 5 days testing on the truck. And I've got to say, from test 1, which was down at Avalon, to the last test, which we actually did at Calder Park, and I hadn't been to Calder Park for a long time. The Calder Park was probably more of a shakedown. We've developed the trucks in a long way. It's a lot better than what we had in test 1. And Dale Moscott, he's a very well-known navvy in rally world, and he's done the Finke a couple of times in the side-by-sides and in a truck. So for his experience to come across, for me also to have someone sitting beside me, that's foreign for me, so I've got to get my head around that. So we go out to Finke, and we're Class 7, so it's more a production-based style of truck. So again, we got limitations on how hard we can hit the whoops and the jumps, but I've got to say that we had a good test day. I think it was test 4. We went out to Loveday Park, and we actually jumped the truck. We hit this ski ramp at about 145, 150 kilometres an hour. It felt like the big TARDIS. Like when we left the ground to when we just floated and landed, it felt like the Titanic. But it's a lot of fun to drive. Our goal is to finish the race, and that's all it is to obviously prologue well, to get down to Apachula, get the truck there in one, and that's, I think, that at that point we'll know the capabilities of how fast we can return. And there's 4 in our class. And the Ford Raptor, who won it last year, Ford have now re-entered that again. So we've got some stiff competition. Good on you. Look at you go. You sound like the Dukes of Hazzard launching that truck very quickly. Brock, who was great to you when you were younger, he loved that safari style of competition. What is it that appeals to you about this? Well, I think it's just, again, different. I think you're so used to supercars and being on bitumen and the tracks that we see nearly every weekend and every year. It's trying to find something new and something different to do, and I did the Australasian Safari in 2010. We were lucky enough to win that, and it really gave me a bit of a taste of the off-road side of it. I've used motocross most of my life for fitness and training, so I've always loved and admired the dirt side of it, but just really haven't had an opportunity. So this is a great opportunity to do something different, and as I said, to showcase what Silverado can actually do mechanically. The things like a Sherman tank, we can't break it, or we haven't broken it. Hopefully, touch wood, I haven't jinxed myself. But like every modern car, the electronic side of it is something that we've had to massage to make sure that we dial down the ABS or the stability control, just so it gets back to a little bit of me for that natural feel of just sliding the truck around and being able to do what I want it to do instead of let the electronics do it. So there's been a few little things like that we got our head around, but for me, it's just a lot of fun, and I'm really hoping that we have a good year this year, and fingers crossed that we can try to manipulate a second year out of it. Good on you. It's all on the King's birthday long weekend. Go well with that. Go well with the Supercars wildcard a little bit later this year. And thank you very much for talking to us today about what is set to be an epic Vailo Adelaide 500 in November. Thank you. I think it's going to be great. I think there's no doubt that there's a good crossover of people of love of sprint cars and motocross and vice versa. So it's going to be an epic weekend. Don't go away. Toby Bellbowen from Sprintcar Hub joins us in just a few moments to talk about this from a Speedway perspective here on Rusty's Garage.
This is the Motorsport Brief. We hope you enjoyed the first part of today's shorty with Craig Lowndes. Bit of a baton change now as far as our guests are concerned. We welcome Toby Bellbowen, former sprint car driver, now the driving force of Sprintcar Hub, where you go for news, reviews, content and a whole lot more in the speedway space, not just in Australia for that matter either. Hello, mate. Welcome to the garage.
Thanks very much, Rusty. Thanks for having me on.
What is the speedway community's reaction to this news out of Adelaide? Great for both sides, really, isn't it?
This is fantastic news. I'm not sure that we've ever seen this sort of event ever announced for Australian Speedway. It could be truly game-changing.
So are you hearing rumours perhaps of American drivers or even drivers that are based in the US who might come over and be a part of this?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like there's a lot of backing behind this event and it's going to be absolutely huge. There's only 36 cars. It's an invite only. So to try and squeeze the best drivers from Australia and possibly the States is going to be hard to fit inside those 36 invites. But potentially there's going to be a number of American drivers in attendance. And it works out perfectly, the timing of the year being held in the middle of November. The two biggest series in the States, the High Limit Racing Series and also the World of Outlaws, would have finished just prior to this weekend in the middle of November. So it's perfect timing for sprint car racing.
That has made my ears prick up. So first thing that comes to mind is, could we maybe tempt or lure a Kyle Larson? And then you'd love to see James McFadden, who's been on this pod, come back and have a play and be one of the stars of this?
I think you'll find that James McFadden will be definitely part of it. It looks like there's Napa backing for the event, which is one of James's sponsors of his D5 sprint car. We normally see Americans come around at the earliest, usually the start of December, and then all the way through to usually the end of January before they head back to the States to start their campaigns over there for the year. So I think, if anything, we'll probably see a handful, I think, come over a couple of weeks beforehand to contest this event in November. It's going to be huge.
Righto. What about those here now that have been contesting things in Australia? Who's going to be kind of starring and ready to step up to the plate here from the domestic scene?
There's drivers from all over Australia that I'm sure will want to be inside those 36 invites to race at the two-night event in the middle of November. Jock Goodyear was one who was actually at the launch of the Adelaide 500 today. You got Lockie McHugh, who's probably right up there with Jock as probably the best drivers in Australian sprint car racing at the moment. You've got guys from Victoria like Jamie Veal, Brock Hallett as well. There's Callum Williamson, Dane Kingshot in WA. There's a number of drivers. Like I said, we've got our biggest events in Australia that get over 100 cars, like the Warrnambool's Grand Annual Sprint Car Classic. So to trim that down to 36 is there's certainly going to be plenty of potential winners in that field. And
some disappointed people that might miss out, but the winners are the fans here, right? That's the great thing. While it's a special celebration for the Adelaide 500, I would love to think that the event could hit it out of the park here and that this wouldn't be just a once-er, that it might be a more regular part of the event offering. Yeah, it's got potentially massive implications on the sport, especially in South Australia. There's a number of tracks that aren't far away. We've seen Speedway City, which is only about half an hour away from the city of Adelaide, the centre there. That's closed down, but there's Murray Bridge about an hour away. Then you got a new track, a revamped track that's about 3 hours away. Bordertown is Mount Gambier. Whyalla is about 4 hours north of the city, a drive. So it's got real potential to really put some emphasis back into South Australian Speedway, and not just that, but this sport of speedway in all of Australia. There'll be a few people probably critical that the support hasn't been put probably behind a more permanent fix, like a permanent facility. But this makeshift track has potential to, like you said, draw in a lot of fans, draw on the Supercars fans, and sounds like there's going to be a TV element involved in the event, which, like I said, has huge potential to really grow the sport, and who knows what will spin off after this event. As you and I record here, I've had messages from friends in New Zealand who are saying that the addition of this speedway stuff is enough to get them over the line in terms of tickets and wanting to come to the event now. So it is a draw card. Toby, you know full well from a track build perspective how big this undertaking is, right? What kind of fundamentals do we need to get right in the creation of this track?
That's a really good point you make, because that was probably my biggest concern when I learnt a little while ago about this event. I thought, a makeshift track, you really need to get this right. And not just for any speedway car, but a sprint car really wears and tears on the track, especially over 2 nights. So this makeshift track, it's got the right people involved. I will say that. You've got people from Perth involved. I know the track curator over there is involved in the event, and a couple of others from other facilities involved in making sure that this track is built right. You've also got, being a makeshift track, you've got the fencing and the crowd capacity. I think it's going to hold about 8,000 people. So when you consider there's upwards of 40,000 people that attend, say, a Supercars event over the 4-day event, it's going to be hard to cram all those people in. But, they've got plenty of time to prepare for it all. But, yeah, they certainly need to get the clay right, the preparation. There's other concerns like weather, which you can't control and has massive implications on the facility and this makeshift track. So, either way, it's exciting, isn't it?
We've seen Shane Van Gisbergen dabbling in this before he went to America for NASCAR. Cam Waters has been doing, I think you'll know better than me, a fabulous job when he's been doing this over summer and seems to keep getting better with every outing. The Supercars drivers probably have to focus on the 500, but I'd love to think there's a little bit of crossover in some way around the event.
I think there definitely will be, and I guess it's going to be up to the Supercars teams whether or not they want to allow some of their drivers to compete, right? But someone like Cam Waters, people might look at his stardom, if you will, and think, he'll be a shoo-in for an invite. But really, he has performed very well over the last couple of years, making the feature of the Grand Annual Sprint Car Classic down in Warrnambool, the biggest event in Australia. So I think it'll be awesome to see him compete on the Thursday and Friday night at the Speedway, and then obviously on the circuit throughout the weekend. It would be really cool to see that crossover. And I think with having Channel 7 broadcast the Supercars, and obviously it sounds like it's going to be on 7 Plus, possibly even live on 7 Mate, possibly. So
awesome.
It's going to be a huge event for the sport. I got to be honest, Rusty, I don't think we've seen this sort of hype about an event probably for 20 years since the World of Outlaws came down under here in Sydney. So, as a sprint car and speedway tragic, this is the most excited I've ever been.
As you should be. It sounds awesome. Before we let you go, you mentioned about joining us today from Sydney. It would be remiss of us not to ask about the new venue at Sydney Motorsport Park there. We know that it's had its challenges around drainage and that it's cost a fair bit of money to make and so on. Will we finally, are we getting the right light at the end of the tunnel here, and will we get a good summer of racing in Sydney? Because, boy, they are crying out for it, aren't they?
Yeah, you make a really great point. I've certainly been critical and raised a lot of the concerns on our Sprintcar Hub YouTube channel, and fortunately I can say I was at the last event over the weekend just a few days ago, and it was so awesome. The racing is fantastic. The crowd loved it. The vibe there is exactly what we wanted a few years ago when this track first started getting built. So can confidently say it is a world-class venue now, and it's a shot in the arm for the sport of speedway. We need speedway in Sydney up and running and thriving, and we finally got that. And now with this news in Adelaide, I'm so excited for the summer to come, just the entire season starting in about September, and glad Sydney's going to be a part of it, and now Adelaide too.
One thing's for certain, you'll have some sleepless nights. You'll be busy. Give people a quick plug. Where can they find out more about your YouTube channel, Sprintcar Hub, and so on?
Yeah, Sprintcar Hub on YouTube is definitely our main social media, but please contact us on Facebook, Instagram. We're on Twitter. We love chatting about Speedway, and in particular, Sprintcar Racing. Sprintcar Racing truly is awesome, and I can't wait to see the crossover with the Supercars fans as well. So if you want to chat, come join us on any of those social media channels on Sprintcar Hub.
You did some broadcasting last summer with my good buddy Matt Nolte and some of the Sprintcar TV team. We hope you get to pick up the mic around this Adelaide event perhaps and do a bit more of that over the coming season. Well done, and thank you very much for coming on the pod today.
Thanks so much, Rusty.
Supercross, Stadium Super Trucks, as well as Crowded House and Cold Chisel as they celebrate 50 years. What did the late Mike Raymond used to say? Be there. Because we've had 2 quickfire guests today for this edition, I'm not going to spend too much time on the wrap-up. Massive congratulations to Oscar Piastri, second at the Monaco Grand Prix. The back end of this season looks like it is going to be special for that young man. Tough day for Will Power after starting on the front row of the Indy 500. He's in good shape, though, from a championship perspective. And Scott McLaughlin was probably a little bit hard on himself in what he said on social media after grabbing pole position in the affectionately named the remake of the Yellow Submarine. He did a great job, and I think on balance over the month of May, there are lots of positives for him to take away. Congratulations to Scott Dixon on the top 3 result, and to Joseph Newgarden, incredibly, going back-to-back. Speed Series is on this weekend from the Bend in South Australia. They are using the West Circuit there. That should be something quite different, and a good roll-up of cars and categories there too. That's it for today. We'll catch you next week. Bye for now.